Welcome to more World of Warplanes content and a tale of two Blenheims. So the map is Peripheral Mission, the variant is Shockwave. We have two military bases on the outlying positions and a central forward airstrip. A simple tactical analysis on a 3-sector map. The military bases are all important, and here's why. Not only do you get 3 influence points, or 3 resources every 5 seconds for holding a military base, but the special characteristic is that they launch rocket strikes on ground targets in nearby sectors. Now, military bases never shoot at one another, which means that the only thing they can shoot at in this game is the forward airstrip. And it can be like a game of ping pong if both teams have one of the military bases. And that's an illustration of an interesting tactical point. In an evenly matched game, sometimes the so-called unimportant sector becomes the tipping point, and therefore tactically very important. And that's what happens in this game. Both teams possess a military base for the entire game, and it's actually possession of the forward airstrip that decides the outcome of the game, as we'll see. Let's have a look at the order of battle. And as we can see, I'm in my Blenheim F. We have player Co-Loverat also in a Blenheim F, which is specialised. I have a tier 3 Wirraway ground attacker on my team, and the enemy has an FW189C, a tier 4 ground attacker on theirs. Marginally, they appear to have the advantage, but let's see how the battle goes. Now the nearest sector to me is the bottom one, you might say, the bottom military base, so that's where I'm going to go. I'll often ping the other military base to send bots there. I didn't on this occasion. That's an omission on my part, and I should have. So the first thing to do, bearing in mind that the Blenheim is not the greatest climber in the world, is to gain altitude before we get to the base. Military bases are protected by 2 heavies. There's a very good chance that enemy bombers will arrive as well, also at altitude, so that's where we're going to do our work. British heavies, for the most part, have good ordnance, so you can consider taking out ground targets. Personally, I like to clear out at the top of a sector first, and then, if it's not flipped by that activity, go down and use the ordnance. And that means that often in a battle I won't use my ordnance at all, because I can do enough by clearing out the top. So we see the enemy ADAs, or air defence aircraft, appearing, and the flak has opened up on me. Now the enemy heavies, air defence aircraft, work in pairs, so you can almost guarantee that unless there's a lot high, they're going to try and double team you, and you can work out where they're going to be quite quickly. In this particular case, not only have the ADAs engaged me, but we also have 2 bombers and a Hurricane. It's busy. So I flew away, because in heavies the thing that you want to do is avoid turn fighting, especially against fighters, even a Hurricane. I've disposed of the Hurricane. An air defence aircraft flies obligingly at me, so I dispose of that too. I decide to turn and take the other air defence aircraft out. That's enough to flip the sector, but I've also got a bomber which I can take. Looking around, I can see that we have a ground attacker, which I'm not going to go down for yet, and we've just taken the airfield, and the enemy has not been able to take their military base. So at the moment it looks like we're in a good position. Having nothing else to do, I do decide to go down for the ground attacker, and that's when I realise it's the FW189C, and I think this is a tactical error by this player. He's flown to the furthest away military base instead of going to the nearest one to help his Blenheim F. And I think that turns out to be a significant mistake. Now, having seen that the other military base has finally been captured by the enemy team, I come into the airfield to do a little bit of work on an aircraft here to reverse the damage that the rocket strikes are doing from the enemy military base. Clearly our military base is doing nothing because it has nothing to shoot at. It won't shoot at the enemy military base, there are no other sectors to aim at. So the point here is, if I can kill some aircraft in the airfield, then the progress that the military base makes to flipping it to the enemy is undone, at least in part. And that is also probably significant in the context of this battle. That said, it's critical to hang on to the military base, so I've come back to help dispose of the bombers. And having done that, turn to investigate the incoming aircraft. There's nothing up top. I'm not under threat from fighters, so I can come down for the ground attackers quite safely. I'm keeping an eye on the airfield, but so far we've hung on to it extremely well. The enemy military base has not been able to make significant inroads to flipping it. Sometimes you'll find that the airfield changes hands what seems like every 30 seconds or so. It's not, but it can keep flipping between the two teams. But in this case we've possessed it for quite a long time. And it's fortunate that we did, as it turns out. So I've disposed of the enemy ground attacker again. This time it was the correct decision to come here. He had a choice of the airfield or the military base. The military base is by far and away the priority. And now we can see that the airfield does look like it's on the point of falling. And now the airfield has flipped over to the enemy. For the first time our military base is under threat, so I must remove these bombers. An achievement goes through, the Maguire medal. And if I remember correctly, that's 400 points in a single sortie in a heavy fighter. Despite having the engine shot out, I remove the other bomber, and that puts our military base back into a fairly safe position. Now, as you can see, there's a rocket flying off to my left, and our military base is beginning to work on the airfield. Now, I would have liked to have gone to the airfield at this point, but I didn't feel that we quite had enough security at the military base, so I decided to continue defending it rather than go to the airfield. Now, I haven't seen the enemy Blenheim F the entire game. Now, admittedly, I've only been to the airfield once, but by this time I've concluded that he's got exactly the same idea as I have. He has taken and held on to his military base just as I've held on to ours. And now the situation is becoming a little less comfortable because the airfield has remained in the possession of the enemy for a good period of time. And I still don't feel able to leave the military base. As you can see, there's a gaggle of aircraft approaching from the airfield. They need to be dealt with. We simply cannot afford to lose this military base.
We are losing the military base. There are too many enemy aircraft.
Koshadub medal goes through, which is 5 kills of enemy aircraft, 1 from each class after the score line. And now our military base is secure. I can think about the airfield, but it's already been taken. We can see that the enemy is being thinned out. Their ground attacker has been removed. He crashed in our military base whilst I was firing at him. And now the enemy Blenheim F has got to leave the military base and come to the centre and try and flip it, otherwise this game is lost. And that's my opportunity. I take the option of coming into the airfield to make sure it remains in our hands, and low Ko-Loverat appears in front of me and I say hello. And that's the final action of the game. A good haul of medals, a decent tally for personal points. So let's review the battle result, and we see in the centre that this was a 5 chevron battle, and hovering over that we get confirmation that this was the best result for a heavy fighter of grade 1. I'm using a premium account, so there's a bonus applied to the silver or credits, and they totaled 122,367. If we come across to the message box just quickly, we'll see that there were no expenses because my aircraft wasn't shot down and I use prepaid consumables. Bonuses will apply to the following 2 items: combat experience of 6,065, 303 free experience, and 5 tokens. 1 for the McCampbell's medal, the Marseille, the Koshadub, Hero of the Sky badge, and an ace. So if we go to the personal score, we see that the class-specific missions were entirely complete. Personal points of 21,100, which is a decent game. 1 sector captured. 21 aerial targets destroyed, which is enough for an ace. 4,721 damage to aerial targets, and 27 critical hits. Capture points received 780, and most of those were for defending, unsurprisingly 640. If we go to the team score panel, we see that was enough for first place, and the Wirraway made a contribution, and although it's not the largest contribution, I think it's significant in this case because it's better than the FW189C's contribution on the other side. And I just want to concentrate a little on the battle for Ko-Loverat. So if we click on his statistics, we'll see that they're extremely similar to mine. All of the class-specific missions are complete. 20,240 personal points, extremely similar to my score. 1 sector captured also. 17 aerial targets destroyed. More damage to aerial targets though, and a lot more critical hits. You could argue that this was actually a better game by this player, because he also had to consider attacking ground targets, which he did to pretty good effect there. 5,692 damage to ground targets, and that helped capture the military base on his side of the map. I think Ko-Loverat can consider himself a little unlucky to have lost this game. So let's wrap up there. In this video we saw when a less important sector becomes the tipping point in an even game. I hope you enjoyed what you saw in the video, and please feel free to leave a comment. Until the next time, this is Royal Flying Corps signing out.